Hey everyone. uh, I've got a bit of a project here, and it involves doing some rewiring in a garage. And I thought what I would do is I thought I would go through the process in real time and show you the process in real time as best that I can to show you how the project sort of unfolds. And if you're someone who's does electrical work or is thinking of getting into electrical work or just getting into electrical work, a lot of times doing this kinds of old work can be some of the most challenging, because obviously when you're working on a brand new house that's got or a brand new room or whatever structure that's got all open walls and you're running wires, it's a lot easier to do. But if you have to try and work within the confines of having an existing house, and you have to do the work in a way that's as least damaging as possible to the house itself, then sometimes that can make it very complicated and tricky, and a lot of times it's hard to figure out. So what I've got here is I've got a project where this is a garage, and it's the walls, it's all finished off. So what we've got here is this is the front door. This is the front door going out of, here's obviously the garage door. There's two doors. This is the front door coming out of to go out to the front of the house. We've got a 2-gang box, and these two switches right now control, each one controls half of the lights in the ceiling of the garage. So one of the switches controls the lights on the front half of the garage, and one of the switches controls the lights on the back half of the garage, inside the garage. And so what we want to do is we want to, this is going to become a 3-way switch. There's another door off to my right here that you can't see that is going into the house. And we're going to be putting in some switches over there, so these are just single switches right now. So essentially you have to come from the door out of the house, you have to walk all the way through the garage to the front here, turn the lights on so you can have lights on in the garage. And well, of course, whatever code-wise wrong that might be, it's also not practical. So we want to be able to have a light that we can turn on when we come in this door from outside the garage, so that garage lights can be turned on to walk through the garage. So we're going to be converting this from a 2-gang to a 3-gang. Now this 3-gang, what it's going to have is it's going to have a 3-way switch that's going to be for the lights on the front half of the garage, which would be the ones that you'd want to come on when you come in this door. It's going to have a switch. There's a sidewall light on the outside of this door right now. For some reason, that switch used to be in the hallway, so we're going to move that switch to here so that you can turn the light on right here that's on the sidewall here. And the third switch is going to be for floodlights. We've got, right now there's a set of floodlights that's on the front of the garage between the two doors, and we're going to be rerunning the wire from those floodlights, or possibly having to put in a new wire from those floodlights to this location. And then also I'm going to put another set of floodlights on the sidewall of the garage that's going to be connected. They're both going to be connected. So one switch is going to turn on both of those sets of floodlights. So we got one in the front and one in the side. So this needs to become a 3-gang. Now it's not as simple, obviously, as just taking this apart and we'll just make it into a 3-gang. No, we're probably going to need to get into some major reworking of this box location. We're probably going to have to replace the box. I don't know what kind of wood is in the wall here. I'm hoping that it's typical construction, that you've got your studs along the side of the door here, that this is nailed on there, and that this is open space, and that there might be more studs over on this side, and that hopefully this is open, because I'm going to need to try and fish. I'm going to need to try and fish a 3-wire down, and I'm going to have to try and fish the wire down now that's going out, because the wire that's going out to the sidewall light here was really long because it went all the way over there. So I'll be able to pull that one back and most likely fish that down the wall to this location. And then I'm also going to have to reroute the wire from the floodlights to this location as well. Now that's way too complicated for one video. There's going to be obviously a lot of running wires. I'll show you the finished product when it's done, but for the most part for this video I'm going to concentrate on how you're going to have to what you're going to have to do and the kinds of decisions that you might need to make to rework this box, and also to get those wires to this location, hopefully without damaging a lot of the wall. Now, there are some more invasive tactics that we can use. Obviously, we can start chopping away, but of course, that's going to involve having to do repairs. Now, somebody calls you up and says, I want a switch put in or whatever. They probably would prefer it if they didn't have to follow up with either themselves doing a bunch of drywall work or having somebody else come in and then pay somebody to do drywall work if it can be avoided. Now, there are circumstances where it just can't be avoided. That's understandable. But as an electrician, you want to try and figure out as much as you can a way to do that without damaging the wall, so that the homeowner doesn't have to do that. So, so like I said, we're going to go through this in real time. I've never taken this apart. I don't know all I know is that it's 2 single switches, and I know I want to try and make it into a 3-gang box. And other than that, I don't know what I'm going to find when I take this off. So we're going to do this. We're going to go through this. We're going to both be seeing it for the first. I'll be seeing it for the first time, and we're going to see how it goes. So I'm going to. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention is that up above here, like I said, the garage is all finished off, so the walls are all finished. I'm going to try and tilt the camera here so you can see. The walls are all finished, and you can see that the ceiling is also finished off. So, it's got some trim wood and plywood on the ceiling. It's got some like corner molding in there. So we want to try and avoid damaging that. So if we can be able to fish wires down the wall, that's ideal, because we don't want to have to, we don't want the homeowner's garage to need a lot of work to fix just to put these switches in. Okay, now the first thing that I want to point out is that I do have the power off to this location. The light that you're seeing for the video is it's a big quartz light that I have on. It's plugged into receptacles, so there should not be any power to these switches. So that's obviously whenever you're doing electrical work, of course that's going to be the first thing you're going to want to do is turn off the power. So we'll start by taking off the plate cover. Okay, I can already see that we've got a metal box. So it looks like it's a metal 4x4 box with a 1/2-inch plaster ring. Okay, so I already see a complication. It looks like what they did was, it looks like they ran a 3-wire. So they've probably got, what they did was, they've got a feed up in the light fixture in the ceiling. So, getting into this, it looks like we've got a 3-wire. They kind of went the simple route to do this. They've got the feed up in the light, and it comes down to here on the black wire. It goes to both switches. This black wire is just, it's looped, comes down, and it's just looped to both switches. And then we have a switch leg coming off. So they use the red and the white leads from the 3-wire. It's all in one wire. They use that for each switch leg. So the red switch leg is controlling the 3 lights on the back half of the garage, and the white switch leg is controlling the 3 lights on the front half of the garage. Now I'm going to have to rework this. I'm not going to use what we've got here. I prefer not to have the white be the switch leg. You know, that's kind of like general practice. There's nothing wrong with the wire. The wires are all the same. They're all 14 gauge wires, but good practice is not to have the white wire be the switch leg going back up to the light. So I won't be doing that. So that already changes my plan. I was thinking that there would have been a feed here, and there would have been 2 cables going out, one going to each set of lights. That's not the case. There's no neutral in this box. They do have a ground wire down in here, and I can see that it is grounded to the metal box, which is the right thing to do. You know, whenever you have a metal box, you always want to ground the ground wire to that metal box. That's the code. I've got to do some working here. I could probably use this neutral. I could convert this to a neutral. You know, I've got it up there in the light. So rather than this being a switch leg, I could convert this to a neutral, and then essentially I've got a feed here and I've got a switch leg. So we see what we've got here. We're going to have to try and get wires down the wall. This really, I didn't mean, the intention of this video wasn't to show you how to run all the wires and everything for this situation, because essentially every situation is going to be a little different. And so if I was to try and if you were to take this and think that you could apply this to every scenario you'll ever run into, then that's not going to be the case. So what I just wanted to show here was mostly is how we're going to take this 2-gang box out and make it into a 3-gang with hopefully as little damage to the wall as possible. And so now I'm going to take the wires off these switches, get them out of the way. We don't need them anymore. We'll take the ground out here. Okay, so we got our wire. You know, it's all good. It looks like we do have a clamp in here, so we'll just loosen the clamp. That way that wire can move around a little bit. Okay. So now we got this. We've got this plaster ring here. It looks like I can move the box a little. It's probably got a metal bracket over here. So that's going to make it a little challenging in that you've got this bracket now back here. So if you're to just pull on this and try to pull it out, you know, it does move. But if you just try to pull it out, you rip all this drywall out here. So we're going to try and do this so that we can get this plaster ring off. You know, this just got a couple of screws. There's 2 screws, one on each corner, that hold this plaster ring on. And sometimes it can be kind of tough to get at them, but you know, ultimately this will be a 3-gang, so I'm gonna have to make the hole a little bigger anyways, and I know it's gonna be bigger going this way because the stud's over here. So if there's an opening over here, which it looks like there is, I can put my screwdriver in there, there should be enough room there to fit a 3-gang box in. So I'll get the other screw here. Okay, we got that one. So now, this plaster ring, let's see, they might have another screw in here. It seems like it's still pretty tight. No, it's just behind the drywall, so. You know, the problem with these plaster rings is they have a lip behind them. And so that's kind of what keeps them from pushing through. Since we're not trying to save this box, we can be a little bit destructive here, at least to the box. We're trying to not be too destructive to the wall. Okay, so I don't know if we're gonna know if we're gonna be able to save this plaster ring. Probably gonna end up in the wall, which is okay. I'll cut the hole. It's insulation. I can feel there's insulation in there. So once I cut the hole for the 3 gang, I should be able to get that out of there. I don't know. It might fall down in the wall, but I don't care if it does. I'm not gonna reuse it. So I do see this is a box. It's on a bracket. It's nailed to the side of the stud. So I might be able to actually pry it right off. See, there's a little drywall damage. That's what I didn't want to do. It's possible that I might be able to just pry this off. You know, might have to get this in here like this. You know, usually there's a nail through the bracket holding it to the stud. There's the nail. I just found it. You can see I'm getting a little wood there. A little wood coming off with it. And that was probably the nail. Might end up doing just a touch of drywall patching when this is all done. Okay, I can see that the nail came out. So the box is out on the bottom. And there it is. Now the box is loose. So, figure out how to get it out of there. Maybe we'll bend this around. That. Try to stay out of the way so you can kind of see what I'm doing. There's the nail, so you can see they had a roofing nail that was holding that to the stud. Okay, so this here. Okay, and we'll get it off the wire. Maybe that clamp could be loosened just a little bit more. Point in having a bunch of hooks on the end of the wires, so it's going to catch all the way through. Okay. Okay. It's going good. It's going good. Not as good as you could hope. So, there it is. Box is out. Wasn't too bad. Didn't cause a lot of damage. Now I can get in here. There's the 1/2-inch plaster ring. 2-gang plaster ring. It's gone. So I got a little drywall damage here. That might actually. I'm not going to reuse this plate, but that might actually still be covered by the plate. And if it isn't, I might just throw a little drywall in there. So now I've got the wires. So first thing I want to do is, I know that I'm going to have to get, I'm going to zoom, I'm going to move the camera here so you can see. Sorry about the amateur camera work. Not, okay. So I've got a couple of things that I can use here. So I've got a couple of things I can use here. I've got a fish tape. You know, not everybody has one of those. I've also got this this is just a piece of scrap wire, and it's 10 gauge, so it's a little stiffer, but it's just a piece of scrap copper wire. And you could probably use a thinner piece. You know, if you're going to do a job like this, most likely you're going to have some wire. You could even just use a piece of Romex if you want, but a lot of times you need something a little stiffer. So I'm going to try and push this up the wall. I just want to get an idea and just make sure that this will go all the way up. So there's insulation, so it might be a little hard to push, but I'll try and get it on the, I'll try and get it in the front between the insulation and the drywall, and that way the paper on the insulation will actually help the fish hopefully slide up the wall. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so it went that far. You can see there's only about 6 inches left of it sticking out here. So if I take and I hold my hand right here at the top of the opening where the drywall is cut, I pull it back down, and I take that, and I put that like this, I can see that the top of that, the end of that fish wire is up there at the corner in the ceiling. So I don't think there's anything, there's no blocks of wood or anything in the wall here obstructing that. So that's just kind of the investigative stuff that you got to do. You don't want to don't want to just have one idea in mind and say that's what I'm going to do, because a lot of times it's kind of like, you know, seeing this 3-wire and finding the metal box and having all that stuff. It's kind of like you kind of have to adapt to the situation as you move along. And so I know that there's no obstructions in there, so I know now that I have to find a way there is an attic space above this garage, and I have to find a way to get the wires down to this location. So it looks like as long as I can get through the plate up there in the attic, that I should be able to fish the wires down to this location. Okay, I just wanted to show you this. Boy, do we ever luck out. You can see that up here in the attic, that wall space actually extends up about, I don't know, about a foot above the actual ceiling joists. So you can see the wire there. That's a wire that's actually going, I believe it's going down to the doorbell. The doorbell button that's on that, next to that door on the outside. So it should be relatively easy to be able to fish those wires down this wall and then run them across the ceiling, use over the floor joist, not over, but because you never want to run wires up on the top of ceiling joists when you're so close. I'm only a few feet from the access hole, so I believe the code is you're not supposed to run them over the top within 6 feet of an access hole, but don't quote me on that. So I'll probably run the wires along this plate. So I'll probably run them along this double 2x4. I'll run them over here to the wall. And this wall over here is essentially, I got to go through this wall into the other part of the attic, because I'm over the garage right now, and go down to the switches on the inside wall there that is going to be where the three-ways and stuff are. So we lucked out here. This is going to be good. You know, be able to, the wires going out to the floodlight, you know, the old one, this is it here, just hanging here, and it runs down and it goes out the front of the wall over there, and that's where the floodlights are on the outside. So that should be fairly easy. I might even be able to just pull this wire back, because it's pretty long. It comes all the way over here. It might actually reach down to that new switch location, so that would be convenient, because the cost of wire right now is ridiculous. So any place I can save some money would be good, and reuse existing wires. And this Romex is new enough that I feel comfortable about using it. If it was really old, I might not. Like if it, sometimes old Romex will have a small bare ground wire in it that's not the new Romex. All the wires inside are all 14 gauge. So the black, the white, and the bare ground are all 14 gauge in a 14-2 cable. But sometimes the old Romex, they just ran a small, like an 18 gauge or a 20 gauge ground wire, and so I wouldn't reuse it necessarily if it had that. We'll see what it has, but I'd like to reuse it if I can. But the bottom line is, it looks like this is going to be real easy to fish those wires down that wall next to the garage door. Okay, so we've determined that we can get down the wall in the attic. we want to cut the hole for the 3-gang here. And part of the reason for that is that so it gives us a little bit bigger of a hole to be able to fish wires down to, you know. This is big enough. A 2-gang is great. If it was a single switch, you know, sometimes it's tough to get your hands in here. But we're going to make this into a 3-gang, so we're going to have a big, good size opening here. And so we shouldn't have any trouble getting those wires down here. But anyways, I want to cut the hole first because there's no point in having all the wires in the way hanging out, because I'm going to probably have you know, 3, 4, maybe 5 wires sticking out here into this box. So no point in having those in the way while you're trying to cut the hole and risk damaging the wires. So we'll do that first. So what I'm going to use is these metal old work boxes. I happen to have quite a few of these, and so I just thought I would use them. These are actually made so that you can take them apart and couple them together by taking the sides off. You can see that I've already got one here where the side is already removed. See that? Actually, it's gone. It's missing. I don't know where it is. So it's going to work out good. So we're going to be holding this in with, well, I call them F-straps. I don't know what they're really called, but I'll show you that when we get to that point. So now, let's get this wire out of the way. Now we want to trace this because we're going to need to cut this hole. So I've got a little tiny bubble level here. So you want to make sure that you cut the hole straight. It looks like this hole is going to be, this existing hole, it's a little big, so we're not going to have a lot of tolerance here for the level on it. Okay, that looks like it's pretty level. You know, you'll be able to do some minor adjustments later before you actually secure it in place. But like I said, with this hole being kind of big like this, there's not going to be a lot of tolerance. So I'm going to trace around the box, hold it tight against the wall. I don't think we're going to need to cut too much here because that hole is already pretty big. So you can see, let me zoom in here. I hope you can see this. But you can see I actually traced around. It traced around where the screw holes are, where the screws are going to anchor the switches to the box. See that? So we got this screw hole here. I traced around it here. I traced around it here. And so you want to trace around those. You don't trace around the ears because the ears on the box are what actually rest against the outside of the drywall. So when it's like this, those are going to be outside of the drywall. That's what holds it from the box from going back into the wall. So you do not trace around the ears. You only trace around the perimeter of the box itself and just a little bump where these screw holes are here, so that when you put the screws in, because these screws for these switches, you know, the screws for the switches are almost 1 inch long. So, you know, if you didn't cut there, you'd put that screw in, and yeah, it would probably screw into the drywall just fine. But if this wasn't drywall, like if this was plywood or another material, let's say, you wouldn't be able to do that. You'd have to actually punch a hole or drill a hole. So I might as well just cut the drywall out of the way to begin with. So, got my keyhole saw here. And I'm just going to gently cut the line that I traced. This. Just gentle so we don't break. We don't want to blast out any of the drywall. And we can't really make this turn here, so we'll just poke it through. Slowly, straight cut, slow and methodical. Get towards the end here, you go even slower. There, now the piece falls out. So we'll check it. Still Gonna trim a little off over here, it looks like. And you're gonna have to fine tune it a little. Maybe a little over here. Looks like they might have put a little mud in here when they put it in. Okay, so it's getting there. It's getting there, but you can see one thing that happened here is we've got these screws sticking out here, so you want to just trace a little bit around those, and that way you cut away the drywall where those screws are so they can pass through it. Just a little notch here. Okay, and there we go. So there we go. We got our 3-gang box in. It looks like I'm not sure the plate's going to cover this damage here. I might have to throw a little bit of joint compound in there. Wouldn't want to do that now. You know, it's once you get the box all in and everything. I might do that anyways because it looks like this bottom here, there's these ears are just barely catching on the edge of the old hole. So, but it looks like it'll be pretty solid once I get the F-straps in there. I could even maybe drill a hole in the side here and put a screw through right into the stud. You know, that would really make it rock solid. In fact, I'll probably do that. So, but anyways, so we got our 2-gang is now a 3-gang box, and so now it just becomes a matter of getting the wires to this location. Okay, well, it's been a couple hours. I got all the wires here that I need to have here. I decided to go a different route. Decided to utilize the old 3-wire as actually the feed for this box because I took apart a splice up in the ceiling light and found out that there was there was a feed in there and everything. So I can use this. I can use this as a feed, a neutral, and a switch leg for the garage ceiling light. So I'm going to do that. Unfortunately, this wire is pretty short, and there's no extra up in the attic. I can't get the staple out that's up in the wall here, and so I have no extra there. So I'm going to have to slide the box on there and push the box in, and then tighten the clamp around that. I was able to rerun. So there's a light on the outside here, right on the other side of this, on the outside wall. I was able to find where that light used to go to the old switch, which was disconnected and removed when the remodeling was done. So I just cut that wire, and I was able to pull it back, fish it down the wall here. I was able to do the same thing with the wire going to the floodlights on the front of the house. That's this wire right here. So, and ran another wire from those floodlights to a second location where I want to put a second set of floodlights on the side of the garage. And this is the 3-wire that's going to run the 3-way switches for the inside garage lights in the ceiling. There's also going to be another 3-way switch over here to my right where the door is coming out of the house into the garage. So essentially you can come in this door, turn on lights to go into the house, or you can come out of the house, turn on lights to come into the garage, or you can turn them off again when you go out this door if you want to. So anyways, so now we'll have a light right inside, we'll switch for lights right inside the door still. All right, let's get this 3-gang box in the wall. So one thing I want to point out is you've noticed that every time I ran one of these wires, I marked on it with a magic marker exactly what it is for. Once you get all these wires down to this location, if they're not marked in some way, you're not going to know which one is which in order to make this splice. So I marked this one. This is for the sidewall light that's right here. This one's for the floodlights. And then obviously this is I marked it as a 3-way, but obviously it is because this is the new 3-wire. So, and of course this is the old wire, so that's going to be pretty easy to know. So let's go ahead and get this. So you've got to kind of determine where I'm going to come into this box, these different wires. This one's very short, So I'm probably going to come in farthest one over to the left here. And then as far as it goes from there, I can just bring all the other ones in the next 4. So I'll do 1 knockout for each cable that's coming in. Each cable clamp can hold inside, can hold 2 cables, one on each side of the screw. So let's go ahead and do that. To get these out, these knockouts out, all you do is just put a screwdriver in, try them out, and then sometimes you just got to work them back and forth a little, and they come right off. So I'm going to do that for all 4. So I got 4 cables coming in. Okay, so here we go. 4 of them taken out. So let's see how these screws are. Might just need to loosen them a little. Okay, they're already pretty loose, so I think we'll be okay there. Now, I like to strip the wires before I push the box back in the wall. Some people might bring the cables. They might bring the cables, into the box like this. They might bring them into the box like this, clamp everything down, push it back in, and then strip the insulation off the wire. I don't like to do that, and the reason is because I feel like if I'm reaching back in the box with my knife and pulling and trying to, there's a chance I could nick the black and the white wire that's inside this cable and not know it. And then that could mean that it'll be damaged and could potentially short out against the metal box. So get everything put back together and won't really know where the short is occurring and why the breaker won't stay on. So I like to strip these first. And just do that really carefully. Some people use a utility knife. I have an actual electrician's knife, so it's for 10 or 15 bucks, it's a worthwhile investment if you're going to get into electrical work. Those utility knives are nice, but they're just so sharp that you just can't control them as good as you can one of these curved blade electrical knives. You can strip that insulation off, real nicely with one of these. And I know they sell tools for doing this as well, specialized tools, but I learned the old-fashioned way, so I use the knife. And I can do it, if you got to be careful, but you can do it to the point in a way that you don't damage the inside wires. You're just cutting the insulation. You're just stripping off the white insulation from the outside. This 3-way is going to be kind of short. I'm trying to conserve wire because the price of wire right now is astronomical. It's 2021, in case you're wondering. It's astronomical, and so I don't want to have to. I've got a partial coil of 3-wire, and if possible, I would prefer to not have to buy any more, because I have to run another 3-wire to another location from the other switches. Okay, so I'm going to transfer the marks, because those where I've got the wires marked, that's going to be on the outside of the box. So I'm just going to put FL for floodlights, and I'm going to put SL for side light, and that way I can see that. You want to have about a half inch, maybe a little more insulation in the box. So I'll be able to see those. I'm going to bring this one over here. I want this 3-wire to come in. Okay, we're going to leave that one loose. Try and keep my hands out of the way here. It's hard. I'm not really used to doing this for a camera. These boxes can be a little sharp in spots, so obviously watch your hands, but also watch when you're pushing these when you're pushing these cables in, especially these wires, you don't want to get them nicked or anything. Okay, put this one in. I had a lot of extra wire on these old ones, so I decided that I was going to use that to, because I'm going to have to make splices in the box here. And so, okay, so I got that. I can see those in there. And I'm going to tighten down that middle one, just because, so that the box doesn't fall off while I'm working here. Because I'm not going to be able to tighten, that one on the left until I get the box pushed back in, because that existing 3-wire is so short. And you can snug these clamps up pretty good, but you don't want to really wrench on them. Remember, you're just clamping it down on the soft wire and the white insulation. So you don't need to get crazy. You just need it snug enough that the wire can't move around. Okay, so we're doing good here. We've got, let's get this one out of the way. Sorry about having my hands in the way all the time. Okay. So again, I'm going to need to push the box back in because this one wire is so short. You're going to run into that occasionally if you're trying to reuse existing cables. Try and get any extra wire kind of pushed up and out of the way. I didn't say it'd be easy. This is, as far as electrical work, this would probably be considered somewhat expert, maybe not quite. But all right, you gotta get that 3-wire down in there. And the other thing you want to try and keep in mind here is try not to get, if you're trying to preserve paint jobs, try not to get too many fingerprints on the wall. You're not putting your hands all over the walls like this as you're pushing, because if you do, you're gonna get fingerprints on there, and who knows, maybe that person who's having you do the work wasn't really planning on doing any repainting. So it's always nice to try to be a little more considerate. Not just having some trouble getting this other 3-wire in here. Okay, got it. Alright, okay, I see insulation now. Alright, so insulation's gonna be a little short. It's in the box, which is good. So it's gonna be under the clamp. What happened was it was short enough that when I pushed the box back, I lost some length on that wire. So, but I do see insulation, white insulation, and so that tells me that I've got enough into the box. It's not ideal, but I've got enough into the box that I can tighten that clamp. Now, and you can kind of see, you kind of appreciate the effort that it might take to do this. So, when you've got this many cables coming in, it's a lot of wires that you're fighting against to try and get this box back in the wall. You certainly don't want to get any of the wires pinched behind the box anywhere. So you just gotta be extra careful as you're pushing everything back in. And so we'll get the F straps on there. So again, I call them F straps because they look like an F. So show you how these work. One thing that I learned from my dad, who was a master electrician. I am not, he was, but he taught me everything I know. But he probably didn't teach me everything he knows, or knew. So it's sometimes you want to put them in so that the long part of this F is sticking up, and the reason is because you're going to put it up in there, and if it were to slide down at all, you don't want to have the short side up because it could slide down too much, and then it'll be coming out. So you want to have the long part sticking up. You put a little bit of a bend in it, as that sometimes helps keep it in place. And you're just going to push it up between the side of the box and the drywall, and then you push it in. And you can see that the tabs are sticking out. So what I like to do is I like to just temporarily bend one of them over just to hold it in place until I can get the second one in. Now the second one, you want to kind of make sure that the box is straight. And you will be able to adjust the plate and everything in the end because you'll have a little play on the screws for the switches, where the switches screw on. But I try and get it basically straight. So I'm going to do the same thing. Take this, just put just a little bend in it, like that. And I'm going to push it up next to the side of the box. Pull it down until that catches on both sides. And now, because I want to get this really tight, I'm going to take my screwdriver. I'm not going to push on any wires. I'm going to push on the back of the box. Just gently push on it so there's some tension, and then bend the tabs over. And now that's tight. So now I can go back and I can adjust this one, bend this one back out, put the screwdriver on there, push on it fairly good, bend it over. Do the same thing for the bottom. Take your needle nose pliers and just pinch where those go around the side of the box. Just pinch them down so that you don't want those tabs sticking into the box. Because you don't want there to be a chance that they could touch any of the screw terminals. The switches, these are old ones, but the screw terminals are on the sides, so you don't want those tabs sticking out so that, you could have and one of them could be, one of them could be sticking out like this and touch that. And of course the box is going to be grounded. So, okay, we've got all our cables in the box. The box is in place, it's secure. Now we're going to proceed to make the splice. I got my splices all done. I got my splice here for the wires for the three-way switch. I got my feed wire. I'm going to be tailed out the black wires, and I'm going to be hooking that feed wire onto each of the single switches that are going to be here. One for the sidewall light outside, one for the floodlights. I've got my two switch legs. I can tell which is which from the markings I put on the insulation. I can see inside the box. I got the sidewall light. I put that as the next switch, and I'm putting the floodlight switch as the farthest one over to the right. Because since seeing as that's probably the one we'll be using the least often, even though it doesn't really matter. Important thing though is just to have your lights when you enter the room be the first switch. So that's why I have the three-way switch here it's going to be closest to this door. So as soon as you walk in, you just bing, and it's right there. Take note of how the splices are pushed back into the box. I've got a splice here. I've got my neutral splice, which is my whites here. I've got my grounds, which I did those first. So I pushed those all the way to the back because those are all bare ground wires. It reduces the potential for any of your splice to come in contact with any of those screw terminals or anything on the back of a switch. So do the ground splice first, push it all the way in the back, wrap it in a nice loop, push it back in there. So you can see here I did the same with the neutrals. I did those next, wrapped them We did a nice splice, and if you want to see a video on how to splice wires together, check out one of my other ones. I do have a video on that as well. And then here's the feeds coming in, and so I tailed those out, spliced the 2 wires coming in, tailed them out, and I left myself a long wire so that I can wrap it around the screw terminals on the switches and go from one switch to the other. So so that's it. See how nice and neat it turned out? And I'll finish the video once I get the switches and the plate on, and we'll see how it looks all finished up. Okay, well, you can see it. It's all finished. So got my splices all done. Got my devices installed. I got a single switch here for the front floodlights. I got a single switch here for the outside light outside this door. And I got a 3-way switch that's going to control the front half of the lights in this garage so that you can turn it on when you come in the door if you have to. And you can see, got my plate cover on. Everything fit nicely. You don't see any damage on the drywall anywhere. You know, everything was covered nicely by the plate, and it looks clean and hopefully professional. No, it looks professional, and I didn't have to do any cutting of any drywall up above or anything. I just fished all the wires down from the attic space that's above this garage. So this is good to go. I got to do a little bit more in order to actually make the splices in a couple of the other boxes so that this actually does function. But other than that, converting this 2-gang box, existing 2-gang box, into a 3-gang box part of the project is complete. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see other videos that are about electrical work, check out my channel and go ahead and subscribe. And good luck, be safe doing your electrical, and thanks for watching.